The first part of this video will cover how to enable the required APIs to use my script, which is linked in the video description below. So first you need to go to console.developers.google.com, where you'll see a page like this, and then click on Agree to use the service. Then click on Create Project, and then give your project a relevant name. As for the two parameters below, you can leave them as is. Once you're done, click on Create, and then you should click on View to see your project. Here you'll land on a page like this, where you should click on Go to API Overview, followed by API Library. Here you'll see a list of all the available APIs. So first you need to enable the Google Drive API. So look it up, click on Google Drive, and then enable it. So now you need to create a credential file. So click on Create Credentials. So choose Google Drive API and the following options, which are web server, application data, and no, I'm not using them. Then click what credentials do I need. So now you should give your service account a name. I'm going to use my initials. And also I'm choosing editor as my role, since I'll only be editing the sheets. And make sure you have JSON selected. So now click on Continue, and now you'll be downloading a credential file. So we'll come back to it later. Next, you need to enable the Google Sheets API. So again, look up Google Sheets. Click on the Enable it. And that's pretty much it. So the file that you downloaded before, you now need to copy it to the directory where you've pasted my script and change the file name to credentials.json. Now I'm going to show you a demo of the script. So to run it, you're going to need Python and GSpread. So GSpread is a Python API for Google Sheets, and it is very easy to install. So with that out of the way, if you have downloaded my script, it should look something like this. So the only things that you need to understand are these parameters here. So let's take a look at it. So first up, we have the credential file name. So remember, you previously downloaded a file and I told you to rename it to credentials. So it's up to you. You can rename it to something else as well, but make sure that the same changes are reflected here as well. So I'm going to open a modified version of my credential file. Basically, you're going to see a lot of information here, and I've erased it out for obvious reasons. So the important thing that you need to understand from this file is the client email. So you're going to need to use it quite often. So for the sake of convenience, I'm going to paste it here. As you can see, I've already done that. So you should paste yours here. Okay. So this is typically how I take attendance. So my students have to fill a Google form like this, and as I have students from more than one section taking my class, I have this option as well. So they can pick whichever section they are from. So if you go to the responses file, responses tab, and click on this here, as you all probably know, you'll have a sheets file generated of the responses. So now what you're going to need to do is click share and add that client email. So remember, this was obtained from the credential file. So I'll do that. So this is to make sure that my script can access this file as well as edit it. So I've shared it. And now my objective is that I want to aggregate the students. Basically, I want to create a list like this where I have ones and zeros to denote which students filled up the form and which ones did not. So basically, I'm going to use the data from this sheets file and use it here to create another column, which is going to be class 2, since this is the response file for class 2. Okay, so for this file, since I'm going to be editing it, I'll need to add the account as well here. So let me do that. Okay. So now let's take a look at the other variables. So we have form file name. So form file name is basically the CSV file that is generated by your form or the sheets file. So you need to copy the name here and paste it here. And then you have a form worksheet title. So form worksheet title is basically this, form responses 1. So by default, it should be like this if you ever generate a sheets file from your form. Next, I have the information file name, where I have a list of all the students. So I'll need to copy and paste the name here as well for that file. And then I have the information worksheet title. So I have different worksheet for marks and one for attendance. So since I'm only concerned with attendance, I'll write attendance here. Next, we have this variable called non-class column count. So non-class column count is basically the number of columns which are not related to classes. So basically, as you can see, C1 indicates a class. And these are non-class columns, these 3. So since I have 3 non-class columns here, I've given 3 here. So suppose if you had just ID and email, you would need to use a value of 2 here. And then I have an ID separator here. So when you are shown the list of IDs according to course codes, they're going to be separated by a space. So if you wanted to, you could instead use a comma here. So it's up to you what you want. And then we have an update worksheet boolean variable which is set to false. So if you set this to false, your information file or your student list is not going to be updated. Instead, you're going to be shown just the attendance list ordered by course code. So let's do that. Let's run this file. So as you can see, my attendance list has been generated. So these are the list of students who were from this course, and I had just one course, just one student participating in the class from this course code. So this can be useful for like inputting your student ID values in Clara. Okay, so now let's change this update worksheet to true so that we can have the changes reflected in our student information file. So now let's rerun it. And now as you can see, you have a new column generated here, which is titled class 2. And here basically 1 denotes anyone who has filled up this form 2 here, which was basically for my second class. And 0 denotes someone who did not. So if you were to run this program again, it would create another file, another column titled C3, and it would basically just paste the same information here. So for your third class, what you would need to do is change this to something like C3 responses and have a different Google form where you collected the responses for your third class. So now, previously I mentioned that I had students from more than one course code participating in a single class of mine. So suppose if you have something like this where you have just one section in one class, so you don't need to add that option and this program will work just like before. So let me show you. So I've already generated the sheets file for this form, which is here. So I'll copy it, copy the name here. And I want to have my changes reflected in this file. So I'll have this pasted here. And if I run it, and as you can see, again, here I have 3 non-class columns. So here I have the value 3. So let me run this. And as you can see, the data or the attendance information for class 3 has been transferred here. So this was a course where I had just one section participating. So this program will work for both types of classes. So this was an overview of my script. I hope it can be useful.